Okay, everyone, so welcome. Our speaker today is Josh Wittenberg. If anyone knows Robin, it's Robin's cousin. But Josh is in Israel. His love story with Israel began in 1997 while he was dating his wife in a land, he never imagined leaving. But 27 years later, his dream has come true full circle. In his talk, Josh is going to share how he fell in love with Israel before becoming religious and the unique insights and wild adventures that followed. He's going to be talking about his son, who's in the IDF currently, and his life in Israel, as well as something about the current developments. So go ahead, Josh.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks, y'all. It's nice meeting everybody. And yeah, I mean, a couple quick disclaimers. Uh, I've had two different events happen today. Obviously, what's going on with the hostages, please God, is kind of shaking things up, not just for what's going on in Israel, but also for my son as well. One thing I want to correct, not that it's wrong, it's probably the information I got. My love of Israel, and this is part of my story, definitely started in 1977 when my sister, Rachel, she is 7 years older than me, she went to a high school program up north on a kibbutz Kfar Blum in 10th grade. And that was really my first love of coming to visit. And I don't know what it was about this place. It was definitely if you were ever here in the 70s, it was or even the 80s, very much a third world country. I remember we used to get very excited when we found a hot dog made out of chicken. Definitely weren't finding one out of meat, but chicken was very exciting for being a kid at that age, where you just expect it in the United States. And so my sister was in Lebanon. She was actually in artillery outside of Beirut from 1980 to 1982. So Army, Israel was kind of was always there. And one of the things I'm really grateful about being raised non-observant, because now I'm a practicing observant Orthodox Jew, was that I got to see in Israel that as an Orthodox Jew you don't get to experience. You know, when I was growing up, you got out of Jerusalem on a Friday night because the restaurants were closed and you're never catching a cab. And you went to Tel Aviv. So it was wonderful because I became an observant Jew, which it describes that I became Orthodox in about 1995, 96. And then I was here in yeshiva when I dated my wife, who happens to be from Atlanta, and that's when we dated and got married, and um, somehow magically got pulled back to Atlanta, Georgia, which is where my wife's from. And life happens. 27 years go by. We think we have three children, and we're now back in Israel. One of the things that I wanted to share, I do want to share just a little bit of my aliyah because I think it's important because it really does tie into the army part, particularly with my son. Robin, my cousin, really felt that it'd be good to talk about what was going on with my son, which when I said yes, a month and a half, 2 months ago, has changed drastically. When I said yes before, he was just this guy learning how to ride a tank. And since then, he's had four deployments in Gaza. What's the name of the town? Not Gaza City. He was closer to Jabalia. I think it's pronounced Jabalia. And at this point, unfortunately, when you're in combat, you have friends who die, been murdered, killed, and so in the past 3 months, I've got a 21-year-old son who's been to more funerals than I've been to. It's pretty awful, and so that's a part of it, as well. Um, when I started getting itchy about moving to Israel, and it just only seemed like a possibility from a standpoint of retirement. The first thing I did was I spoke to a lender who gave me the process, which turns out a lot easier than I thought. So I do real estate in Atlanta, Georgia. I now do real estate in Atlanta, Georgia with Remax, and I do real estate here. I've been an agent for about 19 years. And I couldn't believe how easy it was to borrow money and how affordable it is to borrow money. And I remember thinking, wow, if my friends knew this, they all think they need $1 million or 2 million US dollars, mostly because they're thinking about Netanya or Jerusalem or something like that. Um, it really kind of changed the formula. And my wife and I were thinking about buying a home up near Lake Chattoog, which is on the Georgia-North Carolina border, if you're familiar with the Southeast. And I was spending a lot of time up there. And my rabbi, who I kind of acquired about 7, 8 years ago, so his name is Rabbi Sharon Shalom. He's an Ethiopian man. His story is incredible. In fact, I want to let you all know right now that I'm going to make all my information available, my email, text, whatever. You can always reach me. So if you are hearing things, if you're making notes, if we don't get to talk afterwards, please reach out to me. Love to introduce you to some of these books that I mentioned, certainly his writings. He was at one point a very controversial rabbi because he was helping the Ethiopian Jews acclimate in a way that the rabbinut here in Israel was not pleased with. There's always, some element of a rub. But so I met with him, and I was at his house here in Kiryat Gat. So I live in a neighborhood called Karmei Gat, which is a part of Kiryat Gat. And we went. He and I were talking. It got very personal. I'm pretty sure I went into tears. And he said, "Josh, I want to go for a ride with you." He said, "Have you ever been to Lachish?" I was like, "I don't know what that is." He said, "You don't know the story of Lachish? Lachish is where the Assyrians came in and defeated the Jews. And it's about 5 minutes from here. It's like going to a mini Masada, except it's 800 years older." So we went to Lachish, and once again, I mean, I'm sure most of you have been to Israel many times. You know that every time you come, it's like, I can't believe that existed, or you see something new. And it's true when you live here. I mean, there's always something new to discover in this teeny little country. And he looked at me, he said, "Thinking about your finances, buying a house in the North Georgia mountains sounds like a great idea." He said, "But you're going to have one major problem. Every morning you're going to wake up and wonder if you should have something going on in Israel." He said, "That's not going to go away." He said, "I recommend that you buy something in one of these towns that are still affordable, that don't have a lot of Anglos yet, because it's the English speakers that make these neighborhoods outrageously expensive. And you buy it with a tenant in it so that you never want to go see it. And you buy something that is small and on a level that you don't ever want to live in, so that you don't feel the need to be there." So I was like, "Really?" He said, yeah, prices go up. You'll make a little bit of money, but buying something in North Georgia mountains is not going to solve what you've got going on. So the short of it is that I came here on October 22nd, 23. I came here 2.5 weeks after the massacre. I came here mostly to see my son. At this point, I became really familiar with a lot of Israel because I have a daughter who went to Bar Ilan, and I have a daughter who went to IDC College in Herzliya. So I've rented cars and I've driven around. And so coming here just to visit, it became very comfortable. And, I don't want to get to, the word is snoot. I don't want to get too, immodest of any way, but something in my 55-year-old wife, between the massacre that took place, having a son in yeshiva, and I want to go with menopause, created this scramble in her brain. And she called me and she said, "I found a place that's perfect for us. And this is it. I want the agent to show it to us." So I look at it, I was like, "Wow, this is beautiful. This is 4 bedroom, 3 bath. It's the top floor, which is what we want. It's not more than 5 stories high." And then the woman showed me the price. I said, "Well, that's nice, but how are we going to afford it?" And I think we probably got into an argument with the agent on speakerphone, which was lovely, from 7,000 miles away. And Jody, my wife, she said, "We're going to sell our home in Atlanta and we're going to move to Israel as soon as possible." So this is something I've been praying for a very long time. I'm not going to ask God or my wife how that came about, but we ripped that Band-Aid off, and now I'm sitting here a year and a half later, in our home in this new neighborhood, Karmei Gat, which is just a fabulous neighborhood. One thing I'll tell you about my neighborhood before I go back to talking a little bit about my son is, this is the neighborhood that has absorbed all of the Near O's survivors. They are survivors. If God forbid you've seen or read or heard anything that took place at Nero's, uh, it's just awful beyond. Thank God these people are here. They're getting help, but they have built an enclave here of schools, of like a rec center, housing. They are the one kibbutz that is not returning. I spend a lot of time in the Gaza envelope. I take people on tours there. We go to Be'eri. We go to Alumim. Alumim is a great place to go to because it's really it's a miracle story. Thank God they did unfortunately have deaths, but it was very very minor, and they survived well. And that whole story is amazing. But Nero's is completely annihilated, and it is further south than the rest of these places, and they're not going back. So I was telling, I'm sorry, I forgot everybody's name already, but I was, mentioning that uh, Mr. Is it pronounced Bibas?
Yarden Bibas.
Yeah, yeah. So he's a jogger down my street. I see him jogging pretty much every day. Everybody knows everybody here. Everybody kind of leaves everybody alone. We know what this man has. You know, what happened to him. We don't know how he feels, and it's just amazing watching him run because as a father, and as a married guy, God forbid, I don't even like to like fantasize for a millisecond, what it's like for that to just disappear. And so these people are here. When my son was in yeshiva for a second year, that's when the massacre happened on October 7th on Simchat Torah. And he's in a Hesder yeshiva in Ramat Beit Shemesh. It's called Lev HaTorah. And immediately, this is a kid. This is an American kid. This is a kid who loves the Atlanta Falcons, goes to Braves games, and was on a trajectory to head on back after year two to go to Yeshiva University to then do whatever in Atlanta or wherever else he was going to find. Aliyah, living in Israel, was not on his trajectory at all. Very, very minimal. And so he saw these guys come in from Hesder. Hesder is a program where you learn in yeshiva, you serve in the military, you come back and learn in yeshiva for a little bit. Some of these guys get married at that time, but there's a financial stipend for this to happen. At the same time, it makes it a lot easier for religious guys to be a part of a chevre, a group of guys and girls to be able to be Orthodox and give full service to their country, and then go back to being, sitting and learning in yeshiva. And so he saw these guys come in on October 7th, and they all danced with the Torah for a second, and they all gave the Rosh Yeshiva a hug and a kiss, and they all got in their cars on Simchat Torah and drove to Gaza. And my son, seeing this, he was like, Dad, this is really something I've never experienced, this element of dedication, and never for a second was someone trying to operate their phone in a particular way. And sometimes Orthodox Jews, when they have to use their phone on Shabbat, if someone's sick or whatever, they'll do different ways of doing things so they're not breaking it as much through different Jewish laws of Shabbat. And so these guys were full go. This is a regular day. Except they're coming in to dance with the Torah and Simchat Torah. And he went immediately, as days went on, he was able to see that there was a lot of need going on in Gaza. And everything was very confusing. And there were guys who needed certain gloves. And the army was so unprepared to call up 500,000 people. There were so many individual needs that were necessary, that charities were just popping up everywhere to bring these guys all kinds of stuff. And so my son went around the yeshiva to these guys, about 200 of them in his group. Now, these are all Americans. 95% of them do go back to America to go to Binghamton, Maryland, Wash U, Yeshiva University, these schools. And he put a tzedakah box in their face. They're like, look, you're playing video games, you're waiting to figure out what's next. Put some money in here. And he went around, and before he knew it, he was sitting on a tremendous amount of money. So in short order, he created a charity where he was pulling in a lot of money. and he was getting people in America to pull that money, and he was buying things. He was having various different people. The men were all gone, so there's various different women and rabbis' wives driving him around to get things and take it down to Gaza. And I remember him telling me, because now I'm back in America, because I was only here for a little visit, him telling me, like, Dad, you have to come back to Israel. You have to come down to the Gaza Strip. You have to see what's going on down here at the envelope. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. It seems super dangerous. He's like, Dad, the danger's gone. The fight's over the border, but you have to see how people are responding and how quickly. He said, you think you got to, with mom, with all of her charities and schools and synagogues and stuff that we did in Atlanta, he's like, you got to see what the Jewish people are doing over here. It's unbelievable. So it sparked something in him, which then like kind of passed on to me. And shortly thereafter, just to kind of get to where Yared was with military, he said, I really want to stay in Israel. I don't want to go to Yeshiva University. It's like that. You're making me happy. That sounds great. I mean, aside from the $55,000, $60,000 tuition a year, whatever it costs, um, I was very pleased with his decision. Just as a segue and a push for college. I mean, I got to tell you, if you have kids or grandkids who have no interest in Israel whatsoever with their lives, send them here for college. My daughter, I'm not bragging about this, but my daughter went to IDC Herzliya College. It's the most expensive private school in the entire country. It's $11,000 a year. And so I'm a big fan of schools here. It only gets cheaper from there, and they're fantastic. I mean, these are not schlubby schools. Bar Ilan, Ben Gurion, these are fantastic universities, Tel Aviv, etc. So he said, I want to stay in Israel, but I don't want to do army. I said, well, are you going to get religious, exemption, which I knew wasn't for him at all. He said, no. I said, well, are you going to be married in the next 5 years and have kids, or what's your plan? He's like, yeah, I'd like to be married. I'd like to have kids for the next 5 or 6 years. I said, well, Garrett, it's kind of hard to go on a date and say to the young woman, by the way, I need to hide out till I'm 28 and a half years old. I'm going to be going back and forth to America to get various different types of student visas and then this, that, and the other. I said, you're going to have to do something. And at the time, he was really wanting to be what's called a jobnik. It's some type of office position. I'm not saying that everybody should be for the military or is equipped for it. But something shortly after October 7th really put him in a position of, I've got the body for it. And this has been done for me before. I'm going to, jump into it. And, his attitude and the attitudes of myself and my neighbors, my neighborhood is about 50-50 observant. It is 70 to 80% Moroccan. Everybody else is Ethiopian, Russian, 70,000 people, but they're all Jewish, and everybody serves. Nobody has any permission to take a religious turn. Maybe the women, but as far as like the men, they serve. And there's something interesting that I think her name is Rochelle, someone in our group. Let me look up on my thing. Yeah, Rochelle Marshall. Yeah. So that she had said at the beginning, I'll see it when I believe it, about the hostages being released, but also that she was talking about with her mom that certain things, stay the same. So, now living here in Israel, I started learning Shmuel, the book of Shmuel, and Shoftim, Judges, which comes before Shmuel recently. And I got to tell you, it's really heartbreaking. the Jewish pathology is really a sad one. It's like the same stuff over and over and over. And when I talk to my neighbors, when I first moved here, I used to get really annoyed at how simple or dumb they are, or whatever it is I'm thinking from my upper class, upbringing, living in Atlanta and growing up. I'm originally from outside of Washington, D.C., neighborhood called Potomac, Maryland. And with my neighbors, when we talk about certain things with politics, they usually end it with "mala asot." What can you do? So as the American, I'm like, what can you do? You could blow up this. You could do this. I've got all the answers for you. But there, there's an undertone of constantly, what else are we going to do? Like we're here. We're ready to fight for this place. I hope this peace treaty, whatever it is, has some lasting to it. We are dealing with, bloodthirsty savages who, just want every Jew dead. I'm not just talking about Hamas. There's a lot of that. Everybody's fully aware in Israel that this was not Hamas that pulled it off. That your average guy who worked at McDonald's in Sderot for the last 7 years, an excellent employee with a proper visa, never failed on his visa, always got it renewed, his work visa, came into work on time. Turns out that's the guy that for years was taking pictures, making notes, saying the police officer comes in at this time, the police officer leaves at that time. So, it's hard to tell where the exact problem is, but to my son's credit, he somehow quickly, between everything I just spewed at you, realized who else is going to fight for this place, and they have me tested at a high position. And so he thought he was going to get off easy being a tank driver because, hey, you just sit in a tank. Turns out that's actually very, very hard. He had a tour where they did nothing, but they were not able to get out of their tank, and they were in there for 4 days. 4 days he sat in that chair, and sometimes the air conditioning would go up, so the temperature in there would get well over 100 degrees, which is dangerous. And today he's finishing up his term for what he has to do in January, so we're excited about that. As his father, this stuff is scary. I had a sister in the military. I've had so many friends in the military. On the day that he drafted, I looked at my wife. I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Maybe he should come back to America and just go to school. Maybe we don't need to be here either. Really, just really like walking on eggshells with this idea. It never hit me like that before. And let's take a look at the time, make sure I'm not okay. And but when he said he was going in and he went through his training, there's something that just seems to metamorphose amongst all the parents that I speak to. And most of the rabbis in the Orthodox world here say that this is a milchama mitzvah. This is a mitzvah milchama. This falls under the rules of King David of having to go to war. This falls under the rules of you don't go to school. There is no Shabbat. There's ways of doing Shabbat, but you're on your phone. You're with your gun, and most of Israel really feels that, and my neighborhood feels that, and so the Mala Sot, what can you do? We keep plugging on, our people, and my son was flying back. He just landed 5 hours ago from Atlanta, so he was not actually supposed to be getting a vacation. When I first said yes, I'll talk about my son, but he got one. And he's been in Atlanta for the last month. And so he's flying back, and he got on a friend's Wi-Fi from his Paris to Tel Aviv leg. And he said he got so excited because there's a peace treaty. And so he's getting texts now from his commander saying, we need you to get to base, but we don't need you to go in. We're pulling back. So that's the whole thing is wonderful, and please God, everything great should come true, and definitely we should have our hostages back as soon as possible. At the same time, as his father, I'm like, what? How quickly can something like that change? It's and that's one of the things I found for myself in Israel is just you just got to be ready for just fantastic stuff that just happens. Someone told me, they said, listen, you got a lot on your plate financially, but I'm telling you, just be ready because you think you're moving to Israel when you're 70, but I'm telling you, I meet guys like you and boom, it happens overnight. And that's what happened with my wife. And I think with all this, I think I've said plenty and covered, kind of what I wanted to, is that um, one thing I've heard from at this point, probably thousands of people that I've known that have moved here, and I have to put in a plug for Aliyah of some nature, and not just Aliyah that like to move here and become a citizen, to come here. Not everybody can move here and become a citizen. My parents looked into it a couple months ago. My dad's 88 and my mom's 85. Please God, they should live and be well, and thank God they are. And they're coming here in 2 weeks, and they're going to check themselves into an Airbnb for 2 months because they just love being here. Financially, with the medical stuff my mom has going on, it doesn't make sense to move here. But my now being here is causing them to come more often. There are no more trips to Florida for vacation. They save their pennies. They do whatever they do with whatever retirement they've created, and they come to Israel. And so when I say Aliyah, I don't just mean citizenship. I mean Israel needs its people to come visit, vacation, throw a kid or a grandkid for undergrad, whatever it is. It all makes a big difference to this land. And for myself, I knew the words would come rather quickly for me, but now my wife and I are both saying that we wish we had done this sooner. Very grateful, and things are going well now. And it is hard. Moving here is weird and hard. I know there's some people in this group who've made Aliyah in the last year. I mean, they find every opportunity to make things difficult. It's just very strange. But it's wonderful to be here. The energy in my city in particular is just fantastic. I'm hearing parties out my door, and I'll tell you right now, uh, massive explosion as recently as 10 minutes ago that I could hear and feel while I've been talking to you. Until this peace treaty is really done, we are going, from what I understand, and what my son is telling me, we're going to continue to just shred and tear up as many of these tunnels as possible. The explosions that I'm hearing are taking place from two things. One are from jets firing missiles in certain locations. I am 9 miles from northern Gaza border. Now it's pretty close, so I can't hear tank explosions, but I can hear those. And the other one is called. It's a move that my son said that they do. It's called a panda. And what you do is you fill an old car. Almost sounds like fun. You fill an old car with C4, and you fill it way beyond your target. You cable underneath the car. You pull it up to whatever you want to shoot, and then he or whoever's in the tank, because he's a driver, so he doesn't get to really fire. They shoot the thing and it explodes. And like I said, I provided my information. If you want to send me a WhatsApp, I'll send you a video of my son uh, blowing up a building. It's very exciting. So, all right, that's about as ADD as I can get. I think I was all over the place, and we could just talk or answer questions. But that's what's going on with the army, my son, and my Aliyah.
No, that was great, Josh. Thank you so much for telling us your story. And I'd be there in a second if there weren't the same health issues with my parents. But it's just wonderful. And I think a lot of us have been to Israel many, many times or lived there. So I want to open it up. I know, David, you had two comments that you were on a tour today, and there was a student from the school you mentioned on the tour. Josh, I guess from the same group that your son is in.
What's that?
A tour. David said that he was on a tour today, and there
Yeah.
was a student from the school that you mentioned on his tour.
Oh, which Bar Ilan or IDC?
David, you have to unmute.
I didn't see the question. Let me take a look.
It was
Wasn't a
the Lev Torah from
Oh, from the
our
yeshiva.
yeah, correct. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
I had taken a tour. It was like Jerusalem. It was absolutely packed today. It was about like I think like 1 million people just like
Yeah.
around the hotel. And it was so I took a tour of Ir David. Uh,
Sure.
it was a tour guide from here in Beitel, and her nephew was is learning over at that yeshiva that you mentioned. So I was like, oh
Very nice.
wow,
Yeah, it's the first Anglo Hesder Yeshiva. So I don't know if I explained this, you guys all know, but a Hesder Yeshiva is where you can learn Torah and also opt for military. And so, but they're generally, it's generally an Israeli thing. So to have one in English,
Mhm.
you know, for the Americans or forever, is really kind of special.
I
It's
think
unique.
they have one also in Beitel, which is also also Anglo, or there's some Anglos that go here that come here for this program.
Very nice.
Does anyone else? Does
Can
anyone
you
else have
give
any
us some
questions?
more information about your experience making Aliyah?
Sure. Um, well, there's a lot of planning on that. First of all, Nefesh B'Nefesh is wonderful. They're very helpful with getting the paperwork together and things of that nature. If it's even mildly on your mind, like there is like a 99% chance that you're still not going to be making Aliyah, go ahead and go to Nefesh B'Nefesh and start an application. Because first of all, there's a lot of different paperwork that you need, and then until I started making Aliyah, I'd never heard the word apostille, but apparently it's a big deal in the it's a type of notary, but it's a pain in the tuchus.
Yes, it
And
is.
like I mentioned, I'm from Maryland. I'm living in Georgia, so it's like, oh, all right, so I'll just order one of my birth certificates online. What's the big deal? Yeah, but then it needs to get apostilled within Maryland after I
Needs to be
receive it.
certified and
Yeah. So it's a good training for what's for the bureaucracy and the paperwork that's coming at you. And it just, it just is. I find that you uh people coming from Montreal, England have less of a gripe about it than us Americans. And it depends on where you are in America. Georgia is very different from the processes of everything political or governmental in New York. Very different. So there's you just got to remember that 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 you're moving to our country. This is our indigenous land, and it is set up in that way. And I think that's about the best I can give advice that I can give in the beginning. And then the rest of it is just really working with great resources. I mean, that's actually what I'm doing for a living over here. I'm connecting people with CPAs and lawyers and lenders and real estate agents after I've worked with them and vetted them and all that. So speaking to good people and understanding the process, like I mentioned with that lender, is a great way to start. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Josh?
well, I just want to say that I think it's even gotten worse as far as like with the FBI background checks and so forth. It's gotten a lot worse over the last few years. And if you have a spouse that's originally from another country besides the U.S., it can be even worse. The waiting time, and then its timing is the worst part of it. And if but they prepare you in a sense that by going through all of this bureaucratic nightmares now, you're ready for when you get here to Israel. And so I totally agree.
And I'll tell you this: I made Aliyah from within Israel. That was not my plan. My wife and I were doing it from America. Um, and then, with the change of us getting involved with real estate sooner than later, um, my Nefesh B'Nefesh advisor said, she goes, why don't you just stay in Israel, finish up what you're doing in Atlanta, and make Aliyah from within Israel? It's going to be a lot easier for you. I was like, oh, that's it. She's like, you don't get the balloons at the airport, but she's like, we'll get you balloons when you come in and get your it's called a biometric, your first ID. And so, just hearing different advisors and just kind of like coming up with a mild plan along the way with someone who can guide you will help you answer a lot of that as well. as far as money goes,
one of these forms that
yeah.
that
So,
and it,
as far as money goes, um, it's my personal feeling that you can never have enough money. So, but I'll tell you that. But the process has been great. The socialized medicine is very weird for me, and that's why you
Mhm.
make you just keep making friends. It's called protexia. So I have a lot of friends who are doctors and who are in politics. So I call them before I call the person that I think I need. But even thank God I'm fine. For a second there, I thought I had a appendicitis, and my doctor said, "Go to whatever the closest hospital is." So the closest hospital for me is in Ashkelon. It's 25 minutes away. It's called Barzilai. It's not the greatest hospital at all. They're good for extreme stuff. Unfortunately, shrapnel, gunshots, stabbings, the stuff that they unfortunately over the past 50, 60 years have had to get good at. So I went in there. You give them your number, and I got an MRI, an X-ray, a sonogram. Everything was fine. A fantastic Russian doctor, who these guys are incredibly skilled and speak English wonderfully. And walking out of hospital, and nobody sent me a bill or asked me for my copay or anything. It was very strange, because that was not the case even with my very expensive Aetna health insurance that I had in Atlanta. So there, but you gotta work it a little bit. So there's benefits here than there.
As a not living in an Anglo community,
Yeah.
what do you see as its real benefits?
Well, I get to learn Hebrew. I lived in Jerusalem for 2 years, and I walked away with almost no Hebrew. I live in a city where very often, so like my bank, nobody speaks English there. So I'm having to break my teeth with my very low level UPON that I'm in, and it is picking up quickly. So that's an advantage. What I pay for food, I mean, I tell my friends in Ramat Beit Shemesh, which is literally half an hour from where I live, you should come here and go grocery shopping and then drive home, because we are a middle to lower income neighborhood. A lot of immigrants, Russian and Ethiopian, and we're paying the equivalent of $1.70 for a pound of chicken. If you keep kosher and you're in America, wherever you live, especially if any of you are in Montreal, you're paying $10 to $15 for a pound of chicken. So um, living in this neighborhood, it's, first of all, where I live is incredibly safe. Uh, it is we have zero crime. We have 70,000 people, and I'm telling you, we have absolutely no crime. My 26-year-old daughter leaves on Friday night, walks through the park that's not lit, behind her building, through a like an alley, whatever, to her place, and she is fine. And God forbid there was ever anything to happen, and she screamed help in Russian, Hebrew, English, Amharic. I guess that's about it. There'll be 20 guys out there, not with their cameras videotaping it so they can send it to the news or to the police. They'll be there with their fists, taking care of that, make sure my daughter is safe. And having my mom come visit and my wife and two daughters, that is priceless. So that happens in neighborhoods like mine.
What's your neighborhood called again, Josh?
My neighborhood is called Karmei Gat. It's the Karmei Gat neighborhood of Kiryat Gat. Now, and it's growing quickly. We now have 500 Anglo families where we had 100 2 years ago. So it's growing at
Wow.
about a rate of 5 to 10 a week right now.
And I want to say
Paul,
hi to you from
yeah,
Potomac, Maryland.
I'm from Potomac. You're from Potomac?
Yeah, lived here
All right.
over 50 years, so we've missed each other along the way.
So I left in 82. So text me when you're done. I'd love to ask you a couple of questions. I went to Har Shalom.
Okay, I did Hashalom for a while. Now I'm at Beth Shalom with Chabad.
Got it.
That was at Hashalom
So,
with one of my sons.
oh, nice. So there's a lot of to the person who asked about there's so many different neighborhoods here. and they're wonderful, and they're significantly more affordable. Not just the real estate, which means the rent is a lot less, but all the other living as well. I'm right on the rail line. I can get on the train. I don't know if you all have ever driven taken the train here. It is fast. It is quiet. It is clean. And when they finish, it's called the 431 extension. I'll be able to just take it right to Jerusalem. But right now, I could take it to Nahariya. Technically, I could take it to the beach. It goes down to Beersheba. We have great transportation here. And what's exciting for my wife and I, so like last night, we had movie night with a bunch of other we were the 55 plusers. Everybody else was 65 plusers. So a lot of retirees and near retirees are starting to move to my town because they're like, well, the kids are here, which means the grandkids are here. We have 300 kosher restaurants that are all mostly affordable, which you cannot say about Jerusalem or Tel Aviv as far as affordability. And these are people that thought they were going to Netanya or Miami, but they're moving here because for $600,000-700,000, you can buy a nice place, which is a down payment in Jerusalem right now. So,
Yeah, it does sound affordable because I'm hearing things cost. A friend of mine just bought a place in Ra'anana, and she paid 4 million shekels, which is over $1 million.
Yeah, well, that's Bel Air.
Oh, is that where it is? Yeah.
I mean, that's the California equivalent.
What made you choose the South instead of going north? Did you have a preference?
So one was my rabbi's suggestion. We looked at this because I said, what's the next Modi'in? Like, what's really going to be completely unaffordable in 10 to 15 years? And everybody kept saying this Carmel God neighborhood, you got to look into it. So that was part of it. I love our traffic pattern. I mean, I can get to Jerusalem in 50 minutes. I can get to the beach in 25 minutes. I can get to Beersheba in 35 minutes, and I'm on the rail line. The location's great. And I like that we're technically in the south because my property tax is half that of like Jerusalem or Beit Shemesh. But if you take a map of Israel and you put your finger on Metula and you put your fingers on Eilat and you bring it together, the middle is going to be Kiryat Gat. So technically, I feel like we're really in the middle of the country because we are so close. Rehovot is 25, 30 minutes from where I am. So it was kind of really arbitrary, but I really liked the traffic pattern because once you get to Tel Aviv and go north, and the country, unfortunately, the country where you're spending most of your time gets real thin. It's just these same 3 highways with a tremendous amount of traffic. So I do like that it's open here. I'm surrounded by the most gorgeous yishuvim and moshevim and kibbutzes, which have just unbelievable fresh everything all the time, and I have an organic market. So it's a great location.
How close are you to Arab lands? Arab village?
Arab land. So the closest Arab city that strictly would be Rahat. Rahat is about 25 minutes away. It is just north of Beersheba. There's a lot of Arabs in Beersheba. We have where I live. There are no Arabs. There are no Muslims. We have no mosque called Mecca. So we live with Arabs everywhere. Certainly Jerusalem and Tel Aviv.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's
Jerusalem
interesting.
is So in our town we have people that come in for work, but that's about it.
Yeah. Sounds like
and as far as missiles go, they've been, thank God, the Houthis and the Persians have no idea where we are because I've been in my bomb shelter probably 4 times in the last half year. So, and I had friends from Tel Aviv and from Netanya and from Ra'anana come stay with us because they just needed a good night's sleep because when that was all going on, they were in there, they were getting the call every 10 to 20 minutes. Even in October, shortly after the massacre, we were watching them go over us to try to hit Modi'in, Jerusalem, and Tel Aviv. So it's people say, "Oh, you're so close to Gaza." I think I hate to say they did us a favor, but one thing that the Iranians have done is they can show that they can hit anywhere, and to move to Tel Aviv to be safe and not to be in Ashkelon. Well, Ashkelon's had very little go on there, whereas Tel Aviv has had a lot. So, it's one of the blessings and curses of a teeny little country is that, thank God that Iron Dome really does work, and those bomb shelters are incredibly strong, and you get notice, which is nice.
Wow.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Josh. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming
thank
on
y'all.
and scheduling so much ahead of time. It was really
Mhm.
helpful. And
Yeah,
I know we all wish your son the best of luck, and we'll be thinking about him as all of this happens, or
thank you.
God willing happens. You're welcome to stay to schmooze a little, or you're welcome to go because I know it's late in Israel. And if anyone wants to contact Josh for any reason, he put his phone number, and you can contact him on
Yeah,
WhatsApp or by text. Frank, I see that you
if you're
asked
an
about.
email, there's my email.
I'll just repost it in case anybody came on late. Oh, there's his email. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then we'll turn to schmooze
Sure.
mode. Great.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you.
was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
You
Josh.
got it. Thank you.
And now you know you have a new neighbor. You have David down the street, right?
Yeah, Dave, we'll have to hook up. All right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Sounds good.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, everyone. So feel free to unmute.
Hi, Pam.
You're muted. Okay.
Hi, everyone. And David, where are you? Hi,
Hi.
David. Baruch
Hi,
haba.
Pam.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've known David for a long, long, long time
Okay.
through Sarl volunteering. And finally, after so many years of his telling me he's going to come, he's going to come, he's going to come, he finally made it. So
I'm here.
very happy.
Oh,
And I keep telling him when he gets up to when he has a time to come into the big city, to come up to the big city. And something that when Josh was telling all of his stories of making Aliyah and David making Aliyah and going through all the bureaucracy, I made Aliyah 24 years ago. It was a lot easier. I had been here on a Sarel program many times, and one time I went home in 2001. And I went home in January. I said, okay, to my friend, I said, we're going to make Aliyah. And we went home. And because I was, connected with the Jewish community in Chicago, and back then there were shlichim. There was a shaliach for Aliyah. There was no nefesh. You did it through your local shaliach. And because I knew him, I went to him and blah, 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 did everything. And like in 5 minutes, everything was approved. And my friend and I made, we were back here I think in March. I think we went home in January and we were back here in March. And that was when our official Aliyah date was. I went back, we stayed for a few weeks, but then we went back for the summer just so I could decide what I was going to do with everything. But the bottom line is everything was so much easier. There was no such thing as an apostille.
What is that?
It's a special kind of notary that has to be done by the Secretary of State, is it, David? I think the Secretary of State of your state. And so if you get like a notarized copy of your birth certificate or an original copy of your birth certificate, which you need, that's not good enough. Your city hall means nothing. So it has to go and it has to have this special
it has to be certified it has to be certified first before the apostille. And then in some cases with a notary, you have to have the notary checked out. You have to go to the city, well, the county clerk and have that and have proof that of where that notary is located.
It's a whole big balagan. It's a lot of paperwork, and and you don't just have to do it with the birth certificate. If people are divorced, you have to do that with your divorce decrees. If you have whatever, custody stuff. You have to do it with that.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of things that you have to do it with. Anyway, we didn't have anything like that. Um, but one thing I will tell everybody, and I tell everybody who is making Aliyah, that number one, you cannot expect things to happen when you come to offices, to any kind of government offices here. Nothing happens the first time. You have to figure things are going to happen the third time going to an office, whether it's to get your insurance or whether it's to get your passport or your Teudat Za'ud
Mhm.
or whatever it is you're getting, your bank account, whatever it is. You have to figure 3 times.
Like
If it
converting.
happens,
You have to ask,
huh?
it's like converting. You have to ask the rabbi 3 times and he turns you
Exactly.
on
Yes,
brand.
If it happens the third time, fine. That's great. If it happens 2 times, wow. With the second visit, you're really, really lucky. If it happens the first time, you consider it a miracle. Okay. But in
yeah,
general,
we
you
had
figure,
it was three
you have
times
to
for our
figure
bank
three
account.
times. Yeah, bank account 3 times. And the bank account is like a million pieces of paper you have to sign.
Mhm.
Back in the United
Yes.
States, whatever, everything's probably done online these days. Here, no, they print out every single piece of paper and you have to sign everything. Even if you go and make a change later on,
Mhm.
everything has to get printed out again.
You have to sign, but
That's
the
one
sign
thing.
doesn't go through. You have to do the signature maybe about 15, 20 times before
Right.
before it takes.
Right. If you're gonna come, make yourself have a new signature and make it just be a scroll, so a scribbly scroll so that you know what it is, but that's your signature. Um, that's one thing I tell people. I also tell people to make sure that you come with 10 originals of whatever document you need
Hmm.
because you're going to wind up giving them away. Never, ever, ever give away your last original of anything. And I also tell people, and this was back when, nylon little things like, paper like holders like that. These were not
Hmm.
popular in the United States. Okay, I've never seen them. I mean, maybe for school reports or something like that. Here, everybody uses them for everything. So I always used to say, buy yourself several packages of those and always have
Hmm.
those with you because you're going to need them for everything. So, with all of that stuff and with what seems to be bureaucracy, it's nothing compared to bureaucracy in the United States. If you're in a bank and if you're a little older or whatever and you want to sit down, if there's a long line or something like, go sit down. They will save your place in line.
Hmm.
Okay. If you're at the post office, well, nowadays the post office you have to take numbers, but before you took numbers, you waited in line, and if you wanted to sit down, the same thing. People save your place. What Josh said about his daughter leaving the house and going out, same thing anywhere. Same thing in Tel Aviv. Same thing in Jerusalem. If you fall down on the street, you'll have 20 people coming helping you. Not like some places in the States where 20 people will walk over you or on you or whatever, or ignore you because, God forbid you're a drunk or something else. Here, everybody helps you. If you're on a bus and you happen to mention, I'll never forget, I was on a bus one time in like a neighborhood, an off neighborhood of Tel Aviv near the Levinsky Market, something. And somebody on the bus, some lady asked somebody, there's supposed to be some place around here to get like really good barekas, the best barekas, whatever. Everybody on the bus joined the conversation of where the best bareka place is. If you've got a baby and you have a hat on your baby or you don't have a hat on, you'll have 20 people telling you, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. When my granddaughter, both my grandkids, when they were born, and we took them to the pool when they were, infants, because that's just what we did.
Hmm.
All the old grandmothers at the pool would come to me and say, it's too young. You can't have your baby in the pool at, a month old or whatever, or 2 months old. That's ridiculous. You can't do this. Everybody tells you what to do. So you sort of forget about all the bureaucracy and you concentrate instead on all the good things and it makes it all worthwhile. So, and you've got lots more good things to encounter, David. So,
Thank you. Yeah, so far we love it. We're very happy to be here, and we have absolutely no regrets. But there are times that the bureaucracy can be pretty bad,
right.
And the nonsense. It's just sometimes there's just like that's real head scratching that but we know, like, for example, with our TZ, our
That's
we got it right. We got the
ID
temporary one
card.
at the yeah, we got the temporary one in the airport, and of course, it's going to be like 3 months before we can get an appointment for permanent, and so it'll be expired by then. But
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It'll get someday, David, in 20 years, you'll be laughing about all of these kinds of things. But you'll be telling stories like I do. And
yeah,
that's all.
it's
It's the best
I'm
place to be.
already telling a lot of stories about about the about the apostilles, but there have been a couple people we know that have given up because of all the nonsense with that, and we just tell
Right.
them that you have to work. If you don't put in the effort, then you're not gonna succeed, and that's why we feel that we're here for good, because
Right.
because of the not a lot of the nonsense, and
Right. On to other things. Some people are coming soon. Sharon, you're coming soon. I don't know who else is on here because I don't see the whole group.
Uh,
Who else is on here that's
Rochelle is
coming?
on here. Rochelle's always there, right?
No, but Rochelle's not coming. I'm talking
Oh,
about coming on
Barry's
programs soon.
asleep. Yeah. Oh, here's Barry. Harry, you're not going, Gail?
No, nobody else on the picture, I think, is
Sam?
coming.
Yeah.
I'm
Anyway,
waiting, I'm waiting for a program that lets old people come.
Right.
you're
I know
waiting
you
for
got cut
you're
off.
waiting for Odyssey. You're waiting for the Odyssey program.
Yeah.
I know. But it can't, but the problem with you, Rochelle, is that it can't conflict with all of your other traveling. So that's the problem, Rochelle. Anyway. Okay, well, anyway, I'll see Sharon soon.
Yeah. Any updates from that side of the world on how people are feeling now? Hopeful or not? We don't know if we should be hopeful. We're saying we'll be
I think Josh and I sort of have the same feelings about a lot of things without having talked to Josh a lot. But
yeah.
cautious optimism.
I mean, they're already talking about a potential Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday.
I don't know.
It was
That's
supposed to
that
be.
got
moving.
extended.
It was supposed to be for what, Saturday or Sunday. Now it's Monday or
It's supposed to be
Tuesday.
the living on Sunday, the dead on Monday.
Oh,
And
I
That's
thought the dead was like
70,
over 20 at a time.
no, it keeps changing, but then 72 hours from something. I don't know what the 72 hours is from, but
But yeah,
whatever.
what my son explained to me is he said, the pullback yellow, what they call the yellow line, where
Yeah.
we're going to pull our tanks, everything back to the yellow line. So Hamas and those that they're working with, just terrorists in general that are in there, they know where their stuff is. They know where they don't want any more missiles to land and any more searching to take place. I mean, we just discovered the most incredible subway system underneath their, hospital that was like the good hospital, right? So they know where they're going to agree within their treaty, where they don't want us rummaging around, and that's where they're going to pull. That's where we're going to pull our tanks and all of our people back to, and that's what we're going to have to pay close attention to. They're going to show their tuchus very quickly,
Right.
right?
Josh, do you think, do you think that attitudes have changed in Israel about being aware of what's going on, more aware of what's going on in Gaza? I mean, people,
sure,
I think
absolutely.
people fell asleep before October 7th.
No, there are many peace now, Shalom Akshav,
Right.
who are like, we've been doing this a long time. Oslo was a terrible, terrible deal. I don't believe there's any magical formula that we can live hand in hand with our cousins where they're not going to want to kill us at any given moment. Yeah,
Right.
Well,
there's a lot of people that have woken up.
Is
Right. And
anybody
uh,
talking
we're
about changing the education system in Gaza?
they've been talking
You
about it
mean
forever.
you mean not taking UN money?
My
Or
God.
not talking about killing Israelis or
Yeah,
Jews or
killing Jews.
Well,
yeah,
I
right.
mean, look, I don't, I don't know who I'm talking to here, so I got to be real careful. Um,
You're
you
talking to
know,
someone who you're talking about someone who
right? Yeah. All right. I mean,
okay.
I only see 10 faces. Listen, it's a part of their religion.
Yeah.
I'll send you
The
guys the name of a
DNA.
fan.
It's even
Yeah.
more than
Well,
the
it's a
religion.
part
It's
of the
in their
religion.
DNA.
There's
It's
a guy named Hussein Mansour. I'm looking at his book right now. The book is called Majority of One. Majority of One. If you text me, I can send you a cover of what it looks like. This is a fantastic young man, and my daughter became friends with him through Stand With Us. Stand With Us. I'm sure you've all heard of Stand With Us. Yeah. Is that what it's called? Stand With Us? Yeah,
yes,
Stand With
stand
Us.
with us.
And
Different campuses, things like that. So she brought him to Atlanta about 6 years ago and to tell his story, which is now in a book about how he was raised in Egypt in a very wealthy family. His family are all bankers and politicians. He went to private schools and he is extremely what they would call moderate, a moderate Muslim. But his story is he learned about these Jews who are not really human. And so he learned when you kill a Jew, you're not really killing a person. You're killing a spiritual entity, which is preventing this particular rise that will take place in the world, which will set everything proper the way a Messiah will. So why do I bring him up? Because he was raised in the most moderate, wealthy of Islam, and so and I spoke to him off. He had to be real careful because this is before he had American citizenship. So he had security with him. He has not met or spoken to his parents since he left Egypt because he's not welcome back, and he has to be careful how he talks because they're not safe in Egypt. His father is not safe, and he has to be careful how he talks about his family, even though he'll never get to see his family again. He knows that they might be um, victims of his speech outside of Egypt. And he talks about about how there's just no room outside of this concept of that Jews are just not human. They are micro devils. They are spirits in essence. And so you can create a peace treaty with us. You can do all kinds of things, but the time will come when you have to act properly to bring the final redemption. And that requires the death of every Jew on this planet.
Right.
And some will say they believe that, and some will say no, we don't believe that. But the fact is, it's a part of every one of their religion. And from what I see, no one thinks that this is Hamas. There's actually there's a British woman here. I can't think of her name. She lives in Tel Aviv. She speaks brilliantly. Can't think of her name right now. But she and another woman in America talk about, like, we did a big mistake talking about Hamas, 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 Hamas. Right? I mean, I'll share something very private. When I was growing up, my father used to get very upset when I would say the Nazis. He would say, "Don't say Nazis, say Germans." It was in the schools. It was in their politics. It was in the church. The reverends at the Lutheran churches were all behind it, making it happen. It was the Germans that made this happen. And so it was a mistake, I think, to say Hamas, because there's not that many Hamas members in there. And by the way, they are successfully recruiting new Hamas members to the tune of 200 to 500 every week. The IDF and our Secret Service knows that. these past 2 years, while all this was going on, they've successfully recruited new members. How do you deal with that one? So I think the resolve is, certainly that's in my neighborhood. The resolve is we are not coexisting, and I think when the Jewish people will realize they have to take care of themselves, no matter what people say or think, we'll have our real peace for a little while.
And what a lot of people don't think about, a lot of people, especially from abroad, who you watch the news and you see your news and you see, okay, people are dancing for joy on the streets of Israel, on the streets of Tel Aviv, on the streets of Jerusalem, everywhere, in your neighborhood, Josh, everywhere. And
Not here.
they don't realize that no matter what happens with this, even if there is some kind of agreement, whatever, even if some hostages come home, even if they all come home, we have soldiers still on every front. There will still be soldiers in Gaza for a long time to come. They're not going to walk out of Gaza in 72 hours, and that's that. Our soldiers will be there. I run a Hamal in Tel Aviv, Josh, and so I deal with soldiers from every single unit all over the country. There are soldiers up in Syria, freezing right now already. There are soldiers in Lebanon. There are soldiers all through the West Bank, and things, and plus all the ones in Gaza. And things are going on every single day. They still need all the equipment. They still need all their supplies, just as your son collected money for all that stuff way at the beginning. There still is a need for it. And this is not going to stop for a long time. And people who don't live here and aren't with it every single day. Even in Tel Aviv, though, people go to the beach and you go to cafes, but it's still in us. It's in us every single minute of every day. And nobody understands that unless you're here. So, and it's just very important when all of your friends say, "Oh, it's great, it's over, the war is over," you just remind them that the war is not over. So
there was something I read, and I don't know if Josh or David or anybody is tuned into this, but I read that the Arabs feel that any land where they ever lived is theirs. And so when the Ottoman Empire occupied Israel, the Arabs were living there in the majority. As a result, they can never give it up. And that's why they have to get rid of the Jews, because we're on their land.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard that before?
Yes, Dar es Islam.
Yeah, Dar es Islam. What does that mean?
That means that if any country becomes or a land becomes Muslim, then it's Muslim in perpetuity. That it cannot that even if it's captured later by the Christians or the Jews or whatever, it's a Muslim's duty to reconquer it at a later point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's what I had never heard that before. So
I had heard part of that is also they can't even sell it to a non-Islam person.
Interesting.
I've mentioned several times on the Zoom reading a book called Walking the Bible. It's a wonderful, wonderful book, and you walk through every step with the author, and you know that this land is ours, and that's it. It's a great book.
And there's something in the Quran that admits that the land is the Jews.
Was the author Filer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just read that notion
Bruce.
of conquered land being permanently Islamic is more common in extremist groups than in classical Islamic legal doctrine. So some people cite historical precedent or religious texts to justify that, but it doesn't represent the position of mainstream Islamic thought. We're talking right-wing groups.
And that's not our problem.
Right. Well, you have to be aware. I think that's the thing is we have to be aware of where they're coming from and why every time they've been offered a state or whatever, they don't want it because they want the whole thing because that's their land. So we need to understand where they're coming from. And
And
I think
also, a lot of the leaders are making money off of
Oh,
the
God.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no matter what, whether they think it's their land or not or anything, they want to be rid of us. That's what they want. They want to be rid of us.
Bottom
So,
line.
bottom line, exactly.
Well, it's interesting that a lot of people use that term Islam, and sometimes we use Muslim, but none of those colonized any countries. They're a religion. It was the countries that were ruled by Muslims that colonized. So we have to look at that as a separation of church and state kind of thing. Countries colonized, not religious entities. The same with Israel. Is Jews, Jewish religious groups might have bought land in Israel, but the religion has not colonized Israel. It's people who bought land who came on in and became a part of Israel. We sometimes have to separate these things on out.